lords and ladies of the realm. My name is Emily Sophia, and I'm going to be walking you guys through the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones Season 4. So spoiler alert before we dive into the fun military madness of this episode, as I will be bearing all in this review. And without further ado, let's kick it. It is indeed the second to last episode of this season, and I'm feeling pretty blue about it because tonight was, quite frankly, an exhilarating ride and far more entertaining than I had even personally anticipated. You know, I know that when it comes to battle episodes, this show freaking delivers. We think of the Battle of Blackwater Bay, and that was just a fantastic blowout, but tonight, for me personally, even puts that episode to shame, and I'm just really glad that things came across so well, and that it was so exciting and fresh, despite the emotional aftermath that we are all dealing with from what transpired with the Mountain and the Viper. Rest in peace. You know, we got to be transported to a totally different part of the realm, and that for me was honestly a really winning move, and I'm sure that a lot of people are really anxious as to what is going on with just about everybody else in this show, but nonetheless, this was an awesome episode, and it seemed to me that in this season, the narrative with the Night's Watch and everything going on at Castle Black was a little bit lackluster. Of course, we had the big extravaganza at Craster's Keep, but that was really one of the only major things, unless I have a serious memory gap, so I didn't quite know what to expect of this episode. I was anticipating that it was going to just focus in on the battle, and I was not disappointed. That was, I tweeted this out earlier. I like to live tweet the episodes on my Twitter, and I was telling one of my friends that it was just a sexy episode. Like, sexy is the word. And you're like, Emily, how could sexy even possibly describe war and combat and death? But in the context of this episode, the way it was done, and just, it was sexy, okay? That's what I'm gonna say. That's really all there is to it. So I'll break everything down as best I can, and also try to pop in a few predictions as to who we're gonna see in the finale, or whose story arcs are going to be wrapped, so to speak, or new parts of those stories opened up. We'll see about that. I mean, I have no idea what to expect for the finale. I did watch the little, like, 30-second trailer for next week, but that doesn't really tell us anything other than who we might expect to see. So anyways, let's talk about this week's episode before we dilly-dally into what's to come. So first of all, what I liked about this episode is that there's really no chance for wallowing in Oberyn or Tyrion related despair and misery, okay? Because I was feeling that last week. You know, it's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new landscape, and it's a new old war that's happened before, happens at last in this episode, and will happen again, but I mean, dang, it's an exhilarating change of pace, and I adore that the show, it doesn't drag itself through the aftermath of character demises. It's just a volatile, changing world, and really we, as the audience, are strapped in like giggling school children on a bloody merry-go-round that takes us from place to violent place and circumstance to hair-raising circumstance. But somehow the scenes always shift, even if we are going in that circle, you know? I don't know, it's a weird metaphor. I could go on, but then I'll end up in that whole time as a flat circle business from True Detective, and well, that's for another review, so I'll just leave that there. And then, what I also loved in this episode was that someone promised the person they love that they wouldn't die, and Guess what? They didn't die. It's a Christmas miracle in the month of June. You gotta be looking for those, okay? I mean, you really had me there for a second, Sam, with that whole scene with Gilly. Just every moment after that, I was like, he's getting it. He's getting it. I mean, I was almost certain that a wildling with a jolly Santa Claus gut, a Greek fisherman hat, and a certain proclivity for nipping idealism in the bud would come up behind him and have his head. The very head that he wrote into existence. I'm talking George R.R. Martin, okay? But anyways, yeah, that was just hilariously ironic. I mean, what's even more ironic is that the characters promising to live and actually living is ironic as opposed to the opposite, where we just anticipate that because people say, like, yeah, I'm gonna make it out, this ain't my day to die, they're gonna kick the bucket, you know? That's just kind of the nature of the show and the way that my mentality has switched, and it's probably the same for a lot of other people. So, and then another thing that I loved when it came to this episode was just that, I mean, this was an episode in which the show's production quality shined like nobody's business. I mean, its tight geographic and narrative focus on the epic struggle between the wildlings, an impressive horde bolstered by mammoths, man-eaters, and giants, and the Watchers of the Wall. It seemed to allow the showmakers to get very creative and strategic in their presentation of this larger-than-life warfare. Like the Battle of Blackwater Bay, this episode focused in on an enormous conflict as opposed to looking at what was going on in the other story arcs, and it refused to get repetitive as the scenes shifted quickly to capture the event as a whole, and then as it was experienced by its contenders on that ground level. Oh, and not to mention this episode was directed by the same guy who fronted the Blackwater Bay extravaganza, Neil Marshall. So props to that guy. Please be tipping your hat. I mean, kudos to that. I mean, people like me find it daunting to make like a trifold poster board about the water cycle, and this guy has to find a way to visually and cinematically portray this giant struggle, and I just preach. You pulled a Justin Timberlake and you brought the sexiness to the screen tonight, and there was no boobs even required. See, that's the thing. But anyway, so we were able to move from these breathtaking long shots over what I like to call the cliffs of insanity, okay? You know, shots which transport us from the tippy top of the wall and the men battening down its elaborate hatches to the oncoming wildlings, who are delightfully diverse in terms of the threats that they pose as this collective of creatures beyond, the others who remind us that we're in a truly magical world. It's just a huge episode that doesn't feel huge, you know? It's basically like eating an elephant and then stopping to realize that after like 50 or so minutes of mayhem, you actually digested that big old mass of protein. So congratulations, we made it through, and it was awesome, and honestly, for me, it felt really rewarding. I enjoyed the crap out of it. And then, you know, what's war without a glimpse at the things that its soldiers are driven to contemplate? You know, talking about the stories and discussions of love and duty that unfold throughout the episode, and again, these meaningful little moments that are interwoven into the battle and the visceral crisis at hand. Because, you know, so we get a few scenes in which stories are told, or gazes are held, and hearts are quivering at the edge of the unknown, if we're to get poetic here, you know. So John and Sam talk about love, and although John is not so keen on lyricizing or waxing poetic about what he experienced with true grit egret. Sam also retakes Gilly and her baby under his wing, and with a confidence that I would say carried him through the battle, kisses her and promises that he will survive if she will wait for him. And it's a risky move that ultimately proves successful, so way to go, man, because I did not see that in the stars for you. And Sam also has a pretty cool encounter with a nostalgic master, Amon, however you would pronounce that, to impart some wisdom before the flaming arrows start to leave the bows. The wildlings, too, share their stories prior to the storming of Castle Black. Egret depriving Giantsbane of the opportunity to spin his sleazy yarn before he's taken captive during the denouement of the battle. She also takes the opportunity to claim Jon Snow as her kill. Her very own special someone, or, you know, she's claiming her territory. Styr the Cannibal King, he doesn't exactly acknowledge the claim later on, but, you know, things go as they do. So for Egret, not only is love the death of duty, it is the death of her as she hesitates to kill Jon and thus dies by Ollie's bow. And when we hear her last words, we are invited, you know, to bask in this moment of devastating loss for Jon, but also we get to have this satisfaction of knowing that Egret was exactly, you know, she was always exactly who she portrayed herself as being. She's one of the most consistent characters in the show. Jon needed to know that one last time that he knew nothing. Just once more before he goes to confront Mance in the season finale. So, yeah, I mean, very, very emotional little moment as the battle is still raging on and soon to wind down. But and I heard that was similar to something that happened in the books, but I'm not going to talk about the books in this episode because there are way too many things I could say about it, and I haven't actually read the book, so don't kill me. But then next, you know, while it's tough to recap every single encounter as far as the conversations throughout the episode and pep talks, war cries, and deadly duels, but there are a few critical little exchanges that are worth touching on here, and just things in the episode that were really ridiculously awesome. And I tried to make a list of a few of my favorite things. So, you know, we get to see Sir Alliser duke it out with Giantsbane, and despite losing, he uses his dying breath to call his men to their duty. Sure, he should have listened to Jon and sealed up the tunnel and all of that not so trivial jazz, but at least he meets a reasonably awesome end. And then we also see that Jason Slint shirks his duty with about as much finesse as a coward can possibly muster and makes his getaway to the same room where Gilly is hiding with her baby. I mean, she's got motherly duties to attend to, but as for this guy, not exactly the toughest cookie on board. But anyways, other awesome things that happened in the episode, and please contribute to this list in the comments because I'm gonna miss a whole bunch of things. But you know, we see the Watchmen suspended on the ropes over the edge of the wall, shooting at the wildlings and dropping the barrel bombs, the giants with the flippin' horse-sized arrows and shooting them all the way up the wall. Like, what? And then we get the up-close combat scenes with swordplay and punches thrown in for that nice visceral edge. I like that business. And then we got Egret's aim, case closed. The giant anchor avalanche of death. That was pretty exciting. The freaking Fezzik giant busting into the gate after his friends get barbecued. Sam the Slayer in action. He has a few awesome moves. I mean, he's the one who takes out Styr. Is that right? Whatever he does, he does a lot in this episode and lives and gets the girl. I mean, happy ever after for that guy there. And then we get the indication of an ice zombie threat as Jon and Snow are recognize the need to burn the bodies of the Watchmen and the giant in the tunnel. And that was a really awesome moment too, as all, you know, the 6 guys are down there and they're just getting ready to be steamrolled. And they are reciting their vows or whatever that piece is. I knew that it sounded familiar, but for me I was just thinking, like, you know, if I was in their position, what would I sing? And something like Eye of the Tiger comes to mind, just kind of like, bow. Bam, 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 Bum, bum, bum. Dun, dun, dun. Should just like all drop their stuff and just kind of like I would have liked that. I don't know. I don't freaking know. I kept thinking about different random like 70s, 80s rock pop song hits that correlated with different scenes in the battles, because that's the way that my brain works. So, you know. Yeah. it was just a great episode. I could go on 4 days. What did you guys like? Did you guys have fun in this episode? And in other news, what's there to talk about for next week? I mean, it's tough to know where exactly we're going to go from here. I think that we're going to see, as far as story arcs go, Bran is making his return. It's been a long time since we saw what's been going on with him and his mind buddy. Stuff with Dany and Arya and Jon and Tyrion and Cersei and Jaime, and just, it's gonna be a full episode, okay? We are in for a serious banquet of insanity, so brace your bods, do some fasting this week, or, you know, just marathon the past season, because it's been such a rich and exciting season with a lot of victorious moments, a lot of gut kicks, but that's what I have come to expect and want from this show, and I really feel satisfied with a lot of the things that have happened so far, and am just anxious to see where everything is going in general. I really haven't the slightest right now what kinds of things, spoiler free mind you, if you've read the books or have any insider intel, I really don't want to hear it, but what do you guys anticipate that we might see next week? I mean, I guess it's tough because I'm sure that people who have read the books have their ideas, and I don't really mind getting spoilers about the books, I guess, but I know that other people don't want those, so I guess the things I don't like getting spoilers about are character deaths. Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200, do not tell me anything. Please and thank you. But yeah, you know, after what happened last week, I know that probably some people were feeling very emotionally frustrated or constipated after not getting to know what's going to happen with Tyrion, wanting to have that follow up immediately the week afterwards, and I get that. But I guess that I was just prepared for having this one battle, and it was such a cinematically, emotionally, psychologically, physically satisfying experience that I'm really not going to complain. And I was just, sometimes denial or simply forgetting is a great way to deal with Game of Thrones death-related pain. It's kind of a faulty tourniquet, but hey, the bleeding has stopped for now. I have a feeling that things are going to get crazy next week, but that's what I'm hoping for. So again, I really don't want to make a lot of predictions, so I'm going to kind of cut things off here before I ramble too much longer. I don't want to murder you guys any more than this show does. So thank you so much for watching. Leave any and all thoughts and analyses and things in the comments. It's been a pleasure reviewing this season of Game of Thrones with you as my very first season reviewed. And of course I'm going to be back for season 5 and possibly with some vlogs talking about news and casting details or whatever for the next season. I've done that for some shows that I'm really into. And I might be really into Game of Thrones. I don't know. It's alright. It's not like I spend the majority of my life mentally obsessing and looking for outlets and ways in which I can talk about the show and shirk my life responsibilities. Well, thank you guys for being a stunning audience, at least I'm assuming, since you're watching to this point in the video. Check out the description for other links and fun things on my channel. I've been really busy, but I'm hoping to do way more videos once I get a more stable work schedule. So you guys are the best of bests, and I will be back before you know it.